who the customer is. So we've really broken the problem down to like the smallest bit. If we solve it, then we can start expanding it.
My own. So after I came to Nigeria, I realized that I can basically forget everything I learned in Europe, besides one thing, a couple of things. You can call Jovago, the business that I'm running right now, an online business. That's not true at all. We're basically offline business. When you look at online, travel in Nigeria and hotel bookings in Nigeria, only 1.5% takes place in the internet. So basically we're competing on a very, very small market with a very, very huge potential. And the website that we had for the first 8 months after we launched, that's a website 3 of you guys could build probably at this workshop. There was nothing about the website. What we had to do is to go to the market, go to meet hotels and convince them to work with an online company that doesn't really exist. Obviously we had an easier case because we could say that we're a part of Jumia, we had the same investor, etc. And that was a huge help for me. I had a good experience from working with funeral businesses in Poland because they were mostly people that were 60 years old. And when you are 60 years old and you work in funeral business for the last 30 years, you are not normal. So I was like 23, I was visiting them, and most of these guys, they were just kicking me out because they didn't believe that, you know, someone can do business in online with funerals. So that kind of helped me when I was, you know, traveling to Festac Town, to Ikorodu, to Ajao Estate, I don't know, to Ojoduberger and Ikorodu, and trying to meet these hotels managers who are hotel managers only on their business cards. And tell them, you know, what online marketing is. And we're talking about industry that for the last 20 years was, you know, focusing only on corporate customers. So that was not easy. And then on the other side, I have to find customers. When you look at the hotel market again, 1.5% is only being done online. When you travel, most of these guys, they travel to Kano, they travel to Calabar, they find a hotel once, they are already there. So we basically have to change the habits of hotel managers and hotel customers. Then we had another issue of the way customers approach our website. That was something totally new for me. You know, Europe, when you compare Europe to Africa in terms of devices that customers use in order to serve the web, you're like, you know, 30 years you know, before Europe. When I look at my numbers, when I look at my stats, I have 40% of customers visiting Jovago from smartphones. I have 10% customers visiting Jovago from tablets, and the 50% is desktop. And every month, the number of visitors from smartphones grows by 3 to 5%. This is crazy. We had to like reinvent the way we were building our website, because when you prepare your business for mobile devices, you cannot just make it smaller to fit it as a smartphone. It doesn't work like that. So that was totally new for me because I never worked with such a big intensity of mobile customers. That was the 2 biggest challenges for me. It wasn't an online business anymore. Like for the first 8 months, I wasn't even thinking about building software. I was thinking about finding the supply, which is hotels, and then finding the customers. And even if you think that you're building a tech startup, the most important thing for you would be to sell your ID firstly to your customers, then probably to your business partners. So that's the learning I got here.
I guess that brings me to my own, I mean, you guys have already answered all the other questions I had, like what lessons had you learned? But I'd like to know how you came up with the idea for your business. Why did you go into selling groceries online? Why did you go into it? I know you like to travel, but how many other people like to travel or stay in hotels like you? So what's inspired you coming up with your business idea in that particular field?
Yeah, so like I said, I decided to come back to the continent because I wanted to find something that I will do that I will, something that I will find meaning in, right? Something that will be meaningful enough for me to spend 16 hours a day doing it. And I felt like I wanted it to be something that I'll do for the rest of my life. So if I'm on my dying bed, I look back and say, okay, see what I did in my life. And for me, that was to be on the continent. Then it became a case of like, I like building, I like starting stuff, so it was going to be like, you know, building businesses. Then it became a case of what business could I start easily? At the time, there was the group buying business. I thought it was good because, I mean, I didn't have to convince customers. Everybody loves a good discount. I didn't have to convince merchants too much because, I mean, if you're going to drive customers to them, it's just a great proposition. So that's what I did. So that sort of helped me stumble into e-commerce. The rest then was like, my time, which I spent like with junior, which was a continuation of what I had started. But more importantly, with what I'm doing now, it's the culmination of all I have learned over the last 3 years that make me realize, okay, there is a need in the market. There is a type of customer who doesn't like spending the 6 hours that he or she spends like every week doing their grocery shopping, who is willing to pay me 800 naira to make sure I pick the groceries and deliver it to the person. And I see how easily it's scalable across Lagos, mainland, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Accra, etc., etc. So I'm like, why not? Let me do this.
So Jovago is on my ID, and it's quite obvious because such online booking platforms exist all over the world. And the Rocket just came to me and offered me this job. So you can call me a founder, but I didn't invent it. And it's nothing to be like it's not a mystery, because when you open a business in a new country, especially in Africa, which is so diverse, because you can generalize Africa only by a continent of opportunities. But if you want to copy businesses from one country to another, you're not gonna end up well. The business model was the only thing that we had to invent from scratch. So that's the first thing. But the businesses before, so the dating service I already told you, I got rejected very often by girls. The funeral, that was a kind of a thinking that I have done, and I think that was the only business when I was like really trying to find something interesting. That was around 2005, and at that point everyone was so excited about social media. Everyone wanted to build, I don't know, second MySpace, second Facebook, etc., etc. So I was thinking, let's find a business that there's not going to be any competition soon from young people. And I think, funeral sector is the last thing you will think of if you want to do something sexy. And then I was trying to find a business which is very huge offline, but has no clue how to do online. Just like now, insurance or banking sector, maybe not in Africa, but in Europe, they have no clue how to use mobile. Look at what's happening in Kenya, right? M-Pesa is totally disrupting the whole banking sector. This is why Nigeria, stopped any, way of improving mobile payments because banks are just afraid. But coming back to the question, I was trying to find a business which is big offline, but no one has a clue how to do it online, and then you can quickly grow. That was like the thinking methodology.
Before I continue my question, I just want to know, is there anybody who has questions for Marek or Raphael? Anybody at all? Okay. Okay, there's 2 people. I'll take your questions and then I will continue with my Q&A before time runs out. So.
Hi everyone, my name is Okwe. Besides having really good ideas, what other skills do you think are really important to help you start the business and grow the business you really want to be?
So I think I'll separate the question into 2 parts, right? I mean, what do you need to decide what kind of business to pursue, and what do you need to have as a skill as an entrepreneur to be able to build a business? What you need to decide as a business to pursue, I think, is to have a clear idea of who's going to buy your product. And I think we're going to talk about a bit of that here in the new startup sessions today and over the weekend. You need to have a clear idea of who's going to buy your product, and I think you need to monetize the product very, very quickly, okay? Because if nobody's going to pay for it now, chances are they're not going to pay for it a year from now. Unless you're engaged in a content kind of business where you need volume for people to advertisers to start advertising on your platform. The skills that you need as an entrepreneur, I think the key thing is really to persevere, okay? Because you're gonna go through the highs and the lows. The way I tell myself is, I don't celebrate the highs much and I don't despair in the lows much. So I mean, I can win $1 million deal and then I'll just say, guys, we won $1 million deal, and then let's move on. You know what I mean? So when times go, when the lows come, I just tell myself there's going to be another day tomorrow. There's going to be light again tomorrow. I think more importantly, you can learn almost all the other skills that you need. I mean, I believe everybody is decently smart. You learn most of the skills that you need. But the other thing I think is very important is people skills. You need to convince people to give you their business. You need to convince employees to come and work. It turns out that employees get a salary, but the salary is never the motivator. The salary is more like a given. Okay, but you need to be a leader. You need to get people to follow the vision that you set for them, both your suppliers, your partners, your employees. I think you need to build the people's skills, empathize with them, be able to discipline when you need to discipline, but also step in their shoes when you need to step in their shoes.
I'd like to also add something to show you a perspective. So what struck me when I came to Nigeria is the amount of all these business journalists and good advices that you can find in normal newspapers. And seriously, guys, this is a dead end sometimes, because along my working in online businesses, I've met some successful guys, because I don't consider me being successful. Let's be clear. And some of them are just crazy sellers, just like me. Like sometimes I cannot sit and I like to talk bullshit. And I also know guys who, when they speak so quiet that you have to sit really close to them, because otherwise you won't hear what they're talking about. So just forget about your soft skills. Be able to think in an analytical way, spot opportunities, have an action plan, and just don't read too many books and don't think about what else do I have to improve in order to finally start my company and be a proper entrepreneur, because there's no rule for that. Just just get it done, right? And then we'll see what's going to happen. One here.
Hi everyone, my name is Ola. Yeah, my question is for both you guys. I remember I asked a similar question yesterday to Giovanni. So my question is this: you guys, the niche you are is something that someone currently coming to the market. So,
someone can or can't?
Can't easily come into the market. Okay. So, what if you guys have gone a long way in your various field. So, what if you find a new startup trying to enter the market? What would be your reaction? Are you going to I'm going to kill you out of the market, or are you going to encourage him to start?
So basically, how do you handle competition in your presentation?
All right. So when I entered the market with Jovago, I had the problem that there's a local competitor called Hotels.ng, which is local, and I had all this bad PR about Rocket. And I also had no PR about Jovago because no one knew Jovago back then. So basically, I started trolling Marek on Twitter. So whenever he posted something, I tried to reply to him. So what I did was to create a conversation between me and Marek. So basically use how his business is popular and bring that attention from his business to mine. So that's when you manage PR, etc. And when you ask about competition in terms of product development, etc. Well, obviously we check everyone. Like I check Expedia, I check Booking.com, I check Agoda, I check Ostrovok from Russia, I check C3, and whenever they make any development, we decide if it makes sense to try to do it in Nigeria, and if we decide that it makes sense, then we just try it. So obviously, when you work on a market with strong competition, obviously you have to have your own spice. And let me give you a nice anecdote that I already said at Mobile West Africa. During the first 4 months here in Lagos, I was signing hotels on my own. I was visiting these hotels. During the first 4 months, I visited and signed 400 hotels on my own because I wanted to understand the market. And there was this hotel who called me, which I found strange. But okay, they were interested, so I sent them all the contracts, I'll send them the presentation, all the details, etc. And I wanted to meet them, because I wanted to sign them. So we arranged a meeting, then they postponed it, then they changed the address, they wanted to meet me in the restaurant, etc., etc. And after 3 months, I still couldn't sign them. And then I figured out, Mark closed that hotel. So everyone does it. And it's quite obvious, when you open a business which is not a rocket, not something totally new, you have to search for it, check your competition. That's the first thing you should do. I don't know if that answered your question.
So let me ask the question differently. Assuming you have a girlfriend, right? And then you see that the next guy is trying to go after the girl. Are you going to pay attention to the guy or to the girl? There you go. If you have a partner and somebody else is trying to poach that partner away from you, you pay attention to the partner, right? So that's it. I think when it's all said and done, there's only one thing that matters: customer satisfaction. Okay, if you focus on the customer will reward you. And I tell people my business, seriously, to be honest, e-commerce is difficult. The one I did with Jumia, difficult. And now what I'm doing with the supermarkets, even more difficult, if you ask me. Because we're really delivering, tomatoes and patatas, etc. in the heat of the sun, and making sure we deliver to people within a 3-hour window. It's very challenging. I tell everybody that if anybody is able to come into the market and be able to give customers the level of satisfaction we're giving them, it is actually one of the customers. When we give them the level of satisfaction we're giving them, then he deserves to win. The market is big enough for a lot of players in the market. So I think while competition, and even internationally, creates a conversation. Like Marek said, he started by actually piggybacking on the popularity that hotels.ng has, right? And it created a conversation. Because even yesterday, the day before yesterday, about West Africa, it was all about Marek versus Mark, and I think it gets people interested. The last 2 years were about, Jumia versus Konga. It woke a lot of people up to the fact that something was happening in the e-commerce space. Assuming Konga wasn't around, it was all Jumia, or vice versa, people would not have woken up as much to what is actually happening in the e-commerce space. So competition can be helpful, but more importantly, focus on the customer. If you do that well, they will reward you.
Now you tell me how many times you check Blue. How many times you check Blue?
So it's interesting because I hadn't met him before. In the days of Jumia, we never met because it wasn't exactly direct competition. But we did meet before the start of Supermat, because I left Jumia and he told me, we met at the 4 points, and he's like, as soon as I saw his face, Dr. Lumide, he goes, "Hi, Raphael." So we sat down and he was having beer, let's have beer together. We sat down for about an hour, chit-chatted, etc. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, we were taking pictures together. I think really, all I tell him all the time is let's not do stupid things. Let's not do stupid things like, let's not try to can we drop prices crazily. Let's not try to drop the delivery charge to 0. Let's not do stupid things. As long as we don't do stupid things, we will not survive. That's it.
Great stuff. Yeah.
Hi, my question is, can you talk about the different times that you pivoted in your business? You had a general vision idea that you started with, and how your product solution changed and you honed into maybe a particular customer. I think you might have mentioned something about the person that stays at home, the homemaker. You can both do that.
Oh my god, pivot is the most tricky part, because for most of you, the business you're going to start, that will be your first business, right? And you're going to treat your business like a child. And you're going to hear voices from your friends, family, etc. that, this is not going to work, or this is not working, maybe you should change something, etc. And you have to find a balance between you being focused on your goal and being desperate. And because when with your first business that you treat like a child, even if it doesn't go right, you're gonna keep pushing it, and you're gonna waste all your money and waste all the energy that you have, accommodated in order to launch it. And I had the problem with my dating service at the beginning. It was supposed to be only a newspaper for singles. We wanted to create content valuable for singles, so we kind of figured out if you're a single and you're 25, 30 years old, that means you have more money because you don't have child, etc. So you want to party, etc. And I didn't want to do a dating service, so we basically lost all the money, and before we were able to start the dating engine, when actually someone pays for an account, etc., it was too late. And then I did the same mistake with funeral business, because I kind of figured out it's going to be just a marketplace with a hotline. People call when they need funeral service. But then again, I had the problem that not enough people use internet to search for funeral services. So basically, I did it around 30 years too soon in the Polish market. Thank God I have a VC. So I had a meeting with the board of the VC, and they said, you're either gonna change the business model right now, or you stop being the CEO. They brought the documents. So we kind of added a new service of selling stuff that funeral homes all over the country buy, because we had a huge number of funeral homes. And we started being profitable after a few weeks.
Sorry, did you say
if it wasn't for my VC, I would have failed for the second time. So beware of treating your startup like a child. It's better to fail faster.
It's better to fail faster. I think I haven't pivoted in the classic sense of the word, but I have. So I ran my first startup, and about a year after running the business, yes, we were profitable, but also because we hadn't scaled it. That's what happens. Once you try scaling it, you have to invest more resources. So right about then, I had some people who were willing to put money in it, and we're having the conversations. And just about a year after we started. And what was happening then was I was a bit disenchanted with the model. It was the daily deal model. It will come to tell later on, which is the Groupon model. That is not exactly a very good model. I was reading the TechCrunch, etc. I started the business, but once I started running the business, it became clear to me that the margins were just too thick. When I had an opportunity to start Jumia, I told my investors to be that I'm sorry, I'm not going to take the money because I think it's better to do classic e-commerce. After 2 years of running Jumia, I found a customer type who needs my service, who I think is spending 6 hours a week doing grocery shopping, who's willing to pay for delivery, and a few other things that I think we need to be able to do when I get